Hi peeps, I've decided to every week pick a particular subject and educate all of us on. God helping me though, I hope to do this consistently, and this week I'll be talking about adultery. Yes, adultery. Okay, so let's get right into it. My reason for picking adultery is because I've been getting a lot of questions lately as to whether adultery is an offense or not. And yes, adultery is an offense. Adultery is an offense under the penal code. So if you reside in the northern part of Nigeria, adultery is an offense, so don't indulge. But for those who reside in the south, adultery is not an offense, although it's a ground for divorce. It's a ground for divorce, and the person who is actually offended can actually sue and ask for damages depending on how the adultery has affected the person. If the person can prove it, yes, the person can actually get like some monetary, compensation for adultery. But aside that, you can't actually lock somebody behind bars in the south for adultery, because adultery is not stated in any law in the south as an offense. And before somebody can be punished for an offense, it must be stated in a written law and the punishment thereof. And so you may be asking, what is adultery? Adultery is when a married person has sexual intercourse with another person who is not their spouse, and it must be voluntary, because anything that is not voluntary is actually rape. So rape is different from adultery. And you may be asking, who can actually sue for adultery? The person who was offended can actually sue for adultery, or the parents of the offender can sue for adultery. For example, if you are a woman and you commit adultery against your husband can either sue you, or your own parents sue you for committing adultery against your husband, and vice versa. And who are the parties to adultery? The parties to adultery is the offender, the offended, and actually the third party that this adultery was committed with. And you can be asking, what is the punishment for adultery? Adultery can actually keep you behind bars for 2 years. Yes, 2 years. It can come and or with an option of fine. When I mean and or with an option of fine, is that they can either lock you behind bars, give you like some number of years, like I think the maximum is 2 years. It depends on the discretion of the judge. It could be less, and they can decide to give you maybe 6 months imprisonment and an option of fine, or 6 months imprisonment or an option of fine, which means that you need to pick one of the two. So you either prefer to pay some money and not go to jail, or you actually go to jail and not pay money. And depending on the judge, he can still decide that you pay some money and still go behind bars. So for those of you who have been in doubt or that have been contemplating adultery is actually an offense. If as a married person you are cohabiting with somebody who is not related to you, if you are cohabiting with the person, the law presumes a lot when it comes to proving adultery. If after the gestational period of 280 days, a woman is found pregnant, that's the last time your husband had sex with you was 280 days ago, which is believed to be the gestational period for pregnancy. If you get pregnant after that period, it is presumed that you have committed adultery. If you have a sexually transmitted disease, it is presumed that you have committed adultery. If you are sentenced for rape, obviously it is presumed that you have committed adultery. If, for example, you are doing a registration and you write the name of another man as the father of your child, it is presumed that you have committed adultery. If you cohabit with somebody else other than your spouse, somebody who is not related to you, if you are cohabiting with the person and you are not same sex, adultery is actually presumed. If you actually visit like a hotel frequently and you are not working there, you actually don't have any reasons any corporate reasons to actually be visiting that hotel, there is also a presumption of adultery. So adultery is not just by penetration. No. Penetration only doesn't. Although through confession, if you confess that yes, you committed adultery, you can actually confess to the court, to your husband or to somebody, that you committed adultery, and that could suffice. So penetration is not actually the ground proof of adultery. Anyways, everybody have their different reasons for the things that they do. Then one other vital part of adultery I want us to take note of is Nigeria is a patriarchy society that actually practices polygamy. As far as I know, polyandry isn't practiced in Nigeria, and especially for a man who is not married under the statutes, that actually did not go through the court's marriage. He actually is at liberty to marry more than one wife, and we all know that before you get married, you have to you have to go into courtship. So if you decide to want to sue a Nigerian man now, he can decide to tell you that he's actually courting the woman to marry her as his second wife, and there is no crime for courtship. So you see how dicey these things are actually. One of the reasons why adultery is actually not popular and in courts is the mere fact that you can't actually sue a man who is still interested in his marriage. Cannot actually sue his wife, or the wife sue her husband, and that marriage still continues. It's almost impossible. So because most times, generally, people have seen adultery as something that is common, especially the women. We've seen it as most women have seen adultery as something that you cannot take away from the male folks. I'm not saying women don't commit adultery. Women do commit adultery. Yeah, women do commit adultery. So that's it. Generally, with the present realities of life, it's actually very difficult for you to be able to say some of these presumptions will hold water, like the issue of having a child that must actually be that of your husband. There's surrogacy and there are gestational carriers now. Thank you very much. There are many things I did leave out, and but I know that there were many things that you actually learned from my video. I would appreciate feedbacks if you're kind enough to give. Any other thing you actually want to know concerning this topic? It depends on your questions. I may just answer. If you are asking too much, then you need a consultation.